Okay, hello. Welcome to another episode of Ball Over Passion. I'm your boy George V underscore AFC. We got Chris in the house again. He's back from injury, back more instead of Tommy Asu, we think is a little bit out now. But mate, how you feeling for this last game? A little bit kind of crazy, eh? There's like we'll talk Everton, we'll talk the preview, but we've got title, we've got relegation, we got top four. There's some narrative, the script writers, if there ever was a script writer, and people are like, I don't know if it's a little bit drama filled, but we've got some stuff to talk about. There's some stuff to play for, really. What do you make of like this last game, narrative wise? Like, what do you think is going to happen?
Well, Everton are safe from relegation. Obviously, Leeds and Burnley recently have been writing letters to the Premier League about Everton's financial fair play. Check on Everton this, check on Everton that, and they've been writing them as joint letters. So they've been combining to try and bring Everton back down
Yeah,
into the relegation zone. But yeah, so they're out of the relegation zone. Palace quite poorly gave away a 2-0 lead. 3-2. We saw a pitch invasion. We saw a pitch invasion in the 85th minute of the game. Yeah, it was weird. Like it was important for them to win versus Palace. So now this game for both of us is really like, for Everton they have nothing to play for
mm,
apart from pride, really. And for us is the same thing, kind of maximize your points. Put everyone's thing, maximize your points. And then for us, we still have a glimmer of hope because you still have to win, and then it's out of your hands. But for you to do it, you have to win. And then for us, we need Spurs to lose to Norwich. Who Dean Smith has been smart and get some PR this week by talking because he knows the Arsenal fans are going to buy it. He's been saying we're going to try get our last win at home in the Premier League. So they need that as well as us needing the win. And yeah, like apart from that, I haven't been focusing on the Premier League this week. Like I've been watching other leagues are ending. Like obviously the Mbappe news today has been crazy. The League One playoff final ended. Sunderland are back in the Championship. So I've just been watching other things like apart from the Prem because it's pretty much done. And
yeah.
obviously, I'm sorry to cut you off, but and obviously Foden winning Young Player of the Year and De Bruyne winning Player.
Ridiculous.
Foden shouldn't have even been nominated, in my opinion. And then
Yeah.
De Bruyne just got it for the last 3 months, 3 months. He's been on great form, but he's not been the best player in the league over the course of the season. But the PFA one is the one that really matters, anyways.
I mean, look, the tough thing is when you look at it, I kind of could be okay with, Trent Alexander-Arnold, potentially
Right,
getting it, which was
right.
which was good. Rice, like there were other people. It didn't have to be Bukayo, but Phil Foden for me had. And by the way, like it's never like black and white where it's an awful season, but he had a fairly average season by his standards. And I think for me, there was just a lot more youngsters that were better up for grabs. Look, Bukayo does deserve it for me, and then Connor Gallagher, when you look at it, hasn't got a goal in in so many months, the goal or assist involvement, and he's kind of petered out. Same with Emil, even through injuries though. But I was very surprised about the Phil Foden award there. But mate, I don't know. Like
I
I've
wasn't. I wasn't surprised.
were you not really?
I knew going into it that for De Bruyne and Foden to have these nominations, they were pretty much guaranteed to get it from the Premier League. I don't know about the PFA, but from the Premier League, they're going to get it. So I wasn't necessarily surprised by the Phil Foden one.
Well,
No,
no,
in
I
fact,
I
the
was I was absolutely. He didn't have an excellent season by his standard. He had a good season, and I think there were others that for their team
I think
did
everybody else
better.
nominated was better, and other people that weren't even nominated deserve. Like Mark Guehi, he should have been ahead of him.
Hmm.
Um, like he shouldn't have. That's why I say he shouldn't have even been nominated. Guys like Mark Guehi, obviously Livramento got injured, but before the injury, he would have been a nominee. These players, like he got what 9 goals, 5 assists, and Mason Mount got 11 goals, 10 assists for Chelsea. Like he's been the only consistent attacker
Like I said, I think
the whole
Rice,
season.
Trent were the only ones outside of Bukayo that I could have accepted getting in ahead of him. Look, they did. I shouldn't say I'm not surprised because what typically the Premier League does is when you look at the winning team or the most likely winning team, they're going to adjudicate the awards to that. Best player, best young player of the season normally goes to the winning team. But factually, for me, Rice, Trent had better seasons, and then Bukayo is up there. So like those are the top three for me. you can take your pick about who you think was better between the three. But for me, those are easily the top three in terms of young player this season. But I wanted to get your thoughts on the fallout, just in terms of Arsenal fans and the melt. Like, I don't understand the issue. Like, we'll definitely have to have a conversation about progression. But the biggest debate that I'm having with people right now is, on one hand, you can say the team has made mistakes, both Mikel and the players, and they have bottled the chance to get an opportunity to be in the top four. That is something that you can say on one hand. But at the other hand, they absolutely overexceeded expectations from the year to put themselves in a position to be in the fight. Now, I know we were the ones that were predicting this to happen, but at the end of the day, we have been consistent over a 38 game season. And I think one or two results and one or two points, really, because in the end, things go our way. We would miss out on top four by a couple points. So if you're going to be looking at it at that point, I really struggle to say, look, there's been mistakes. This is how we can improve. But at the same token, progression isn't the same. That's what I'm not really understanding at all. I wanted to kind of get your thought on where you can nuance the mistakes that we've made with the progress we've made, and if that impacts a team's trajectory. That's what I'm not understanding from people. But I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on it.
Yeah, like I was seeing other people on Twitter recently that I think the account is now Arsenal or something. They posted if your opinion is completely changed by one game or 1 point, like completely drastically changed one way by one game, then you never either the opinion was wrong or you just never believed in the opinion in the first place. So for me, that obviously we're fifth now. I predicted we get top four. We could still do it. It's probably
Third
90.
even, potentially.
Yeah, third. 95. 30. Imagine, so 35 games in, we have 65 points. Chelsea have 66. Everybody's on 35 games. Third still looks like a very high probability. 1 point behind Chelsea, 3 games left. They play Leicester. You have Spurs, Newcastle, and Everton. So you see that, and then I'm still confident of third. I was telling you, I'm still confident of third. Chelsea draw to Leicester. Imagine we beat Newcastle. You see, it's just one game completely flipped from third to fifth. Because if we beat Newcastle and Chelsea drew, we'd be on the same points, I believe. We'd be on the same
Well,
points.
the one thing that I want to say is, like, even in preseason, by the way, despite these projections, I'm very sure we all said that between fourth to maybe sixth is going to be decided by a couple points, right?
Yeah.
And I think third was actually really the big
I
change.
said third and fifth. You guys were adamant that Chelsea would leave us, and I thought
Yeah.
Chelsea would be a lot closer than than everyone thought they'd be, and they wouldn't be pushing City and Liverpool. They'd be close to the pack and be at risk of finishing third or fifth or fourth.
Well, the thing is, Lukaku hasn't been a factor. If
No.
Lukaku was any sort of a factor, this isn't a conversation. They are with, a
Or,
City or
or
Liverpool.
if he used, well, Hudson-Odoi got injured, but
Hudson-Odoi got injured.
he's
Yeah.
a great wide playmaker that Tuchel never uses. And we predicted that, or we thought that I said that he'd be sacked by the end of the season, but which is wrong, which was definitely wrong. But we thought he'd switch to a 4, and he didn't. But he really needs to. He
No,
really
he
needs
really
to.
does, and his team has been crying out for it, and I think their entire summer window is absolutely kind of it kind of thrown into like a little bit of an unknown kind of area. And I mean, look, lads, at the end of the day, I don't really think I don't feel any pressure about being hammered. Ultimately, we were in a position where no one thought we were, and we were there, and we bottled it.
But the thing is, with all the hammering that's happening from like people who say we are wrong, they should have some self-awareness, because they expected to do this hammering in February, but they're doing it one day before the season ends. So me predicting top 4 and then you getting to laugh at me about it happening the day before the season ends, you should have like some retrospect. Maybe they were a lot closer to being right than I was to being right, rather than looking at them being wrong and then by 2 points. So if Spurs win and we win, it's going to be by 2 points. And then like, obviously we lost out. The players have said it themselves. It's disappointing to fall at this hurdle, like one game before the end of the season. You'd very much prefer to happen at the 30 game mark, like 30 games in, you're still in the running, then you fall out, rather than the 37th game you lose. So yeah, it's a killer, but it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, we kind of talked about it on the Newcastle review in terms of like what maybe has faltered, and we'll have an end of season review to kind of really unpack some of the issues that we felt. But I think ultimately Newcastle is probably the toughest loss for me, Chris, because I felt like to a man, every player gave up. Like that was one of the most mentally collapsible performances I've seen all season. And for me, that was tough to swallow. I mean, I could kind of take not getting there on the objectives if, we played well, but ultimately we fell short at depth. We fell short at an injury. And by the way,
Mm.
we did. Make no mistake, you have Thomas Partey and Kieran Tierney. Fourth would be wrapped up quite clearly. Make no mistake about it. But I think ultimately, when you have a look at the season, I'm never, worried about this stuff. We appreciate all the support that you guys keep giving us, both in the comments and everywhere else. But ultimately, we go again, mate. Like we look at our stuff, we make our predictions about what we think, and if things don't happen, things don't happen. But we just try to analyze the team and what we can do to improve. Because I
Yeah,
don't believe that the project's done, the progression's done, the trajectory's done. All of those claims, I very much push up against, and I think that this team is just getting started, and it needs a couple smart additions in the right areas and the right spots of the team. And I think we're a lot closer to Chelsea than we are to Spurs if you were to really add a couple goal scorers, a couple additions to the team. So I think there's ways that we can really improve. But I'm kind of calm. Everyone's like, "Are you okay? Oh my god!"
honestly,
And I'm like, "Football's not that deep, guys. Like it's a prediction about where you think the team's going to go. If they don't, they don't. Let's analyze why and let's move on. That's what life's about. You don't get to where you're at. It doesn't mean it's over. It's the end of the world. It just means, we've got a little bit more work to do. That's it."
yeah, like for me, the prediction thing is like obviously we're gonna have to keep going back to it. We are going to do a season review after the season ends, after everything ends. So after the Champions League, after the FA Cup happened, but after the Champions League, after Europa League, the Europa League happened, after the Conference League and the Champions League end, then we're gonna do a season review and all this stuff. But the prediction, because we're gonna have to keep talking about it because it is the main topic. Or you guys predicted fourth and it didn't happen, but we are closer than anyone else predicted us to be. We predicted it to be tight. We predicted it to be a 1 to 5 point swing, so less than two wins out of top four for everyone from fourth to sixth, and it was. So it's good. It's positive for the team to be this close, but it's a negative that they had it in their hands and they dropped it. Because I think the conversation wouldn't be as bad if we were fifth and that 1 2 points behind the whole time, but we were ahead with games in hand. And no, we were ahead with 35 games in, you're ahead, and you just have to win your own games, and you lost one. So
Well, I think we can analyze about why, and with those 5 games left, we obviously got a lot of injuries, and I don't think that injuries are 100% the excuse. Like again, I kind of look at Newcastle where it was one of the worst performances of the season, just a complete mental collapse from the players. I felt as though that tactically you could have done anything on the pitch, and Granit Xhaka said as much on the interview, which caused huge controversy online. And I think just coming from him as a player, maybe his performance on the day, which wasn't great, and what he said though wasn't wrong. Players did hide. They didn't listen to any kind of instruction, and that wasn't a game to be proud of. But ultimately, after that, and when you kind of look at the end of the season about things that we have improved, all of our youngsters, by the way, have had career-defining seasons. Bukayo Saka's had his best season. Emil Smith-Rowe has produced the most goals and assist numbers that he has in his entire career. The same is said for Gabriel Martinelli. When you look at it, we changed an entire defense, right, and an entire
Eddie has
build-up.
also
Eddie also has another highest part of the season, but additionally, when you look at it, mate, like I was having debates about the defense and our defensive record. Guys, we changed our defensive positioning to a high line this season, and we maintained the same number of defensive solidity. That's improvement. You can't when you're
yeah.
gonna go higher up the pitch, you're gonna leave yourself exposed. And I think the one thing that we didn't do, ironically, is control transitions. It always goes back to that. When you look at the midfield, it always goes back to how can you control transitions? How are you able to keep your technical security high up the pitch? And how can you sustain pressure? And I don't think we sustained pressure good enough in the back half of the season, probably since I think mid-March, I would say, to the end of the season. And some of that was injury related, but the team wasn't good at controlling transitions. We made things more basketball games, and I think
It's
while
why
we
we didn't
were
draw. It's why we never really drew games. We never really sustained pressure, as you said. We couldn't control transitions. We couldn't dictate the tempo of the game. Like the game was always fast. We could never slow it down. Like whoever the other, versus Newcastle, Bruno Guimaraes dictated the game. Like the
Mm.
game was played at his pace. When he sped it up, it was very quick, and they killed us in transitions. And when they kept it slow, we just couldn't keep the ball at all. So in the second half of the season, that's why we had a lot of basketball games like Watford, for example. No, yeah, Watford. We won 3-2. Like on another day, we lose that game, but we won through
Mm.
ball striking. Many basketball games. Leicester at home was probably one of the games that wasn't like that. But a lot of the games, like from February, March till the end of the season, were very games played in transition, which is not our strong suit. We don't do well defensively in transition, especially without Party. With Party, and Xhaka, we do very well to win the second balls, and we do well in transition. But once he went down, we just really collapsed. And then once you add a bit of energy into our team, because normally we've been slow, once you add a bit of energy with Martinelli, then the transitions are even worse because we're a lot higher, and then we just get killed in behind. So yeah, that's why we didn't draw the least draws in the league, and maybe a bit of draws would have helped us. But you live and you learn.
Look, you live and you learn. There's that stuff, but I think there's some very key things that, we can look at from this season, be very confident about. The amount of times that we've been able to build up so well and consistently was a huge change from last season, which, even with recruiting kind of people that aren't in the front line, our back build up was really quite good. It's more in the middle of the park that we've really struggled, and that's always because we've lacked depth in terms of controlling transitions from, I'd say, almost the last decade. It's one of the big things that we talk about on the channel here, that the midfield of the engine room needs a rebuild. It needs a revamp. It needs something to be looked at. And it's not just Thomas Partey that we miss on in transition. It's the verticality in the midfield. We have a home and an away team, and that can't happen next year. That for me is the biggest thing. And despite some people improving and some of the things that they lacked last season, ultimately there were some players that for me really disappointed me in the back half of the season. You're looking at your leaders, and we're talking about leaders in the pitch. There are some players for me that didn't step up and did hide in the background and didn't impose themselves in away days as much as we could. So when you're looking at losing your big player in Thomas Partey, mate, you look at your other people on the pitch to kind of step up. And yeah, I'm looking at your Martin Odegaard. Yeah, I'm looking higher up the pitch. If you don't have your White from behind, I'm looking at our technical players to put themselves on the ball, and we kind of just didn't do it. So ultimately, next season is about finding a way to have all of these players thrive. We know who these players are. How do we find ways to supplement them? I think our efficiency in the final third, not just goals and ball striking, let's say, but the final action, the amount of times that we don't play the pass before the pass at the right time, really, really difficult to take. The amount of times that we're in and around the box and we're not direct enough, we're not being incisive, that really needs to change. Another thing is consistency for second ball. We did a really good job, I'd say, from December to about March in controlling that. And a lot of that is due to Thomas Partey. But, beyond that, outside of our starting 11, we don't have a reliable second ball kind of specialist. And then lastly, look, better verticality and technical security and contact. That has to happen across every third of the pitch. We got to recruit some more ball carrying progressors. We got some ideas, but again, I think that goes into the transfer pods, which I know you guys really love to hear about. So don't worry, we'll be bringing those up. But this is an Everton preview. I thought we had to just address the elephant in the room, which was, are we finished? And no, we're not quite finished. But going to the Everton game, mate, like in this game in isolation, what do you make of their danger man, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, back with a bang? Apparently, he's good again. Who knew? All it takes is some recovery from injuries. A player, by the way, that I've been saying for over a year, Mikel Arteta is very likely to recruit. He's back in form, back amongst the goals, and you've also got Richarlison, who's been playing out of his skin the last couple of weeks, really almost single-handedly keeping Everton kind of alive. And also an ex-Arsenal academy lad, Iwobi, I think has been excellent
Center
for
mid.
them. Yeah, and it's a position that for me he's always been best at, and ironically, we could really use with an Iwobi on the left wing right now, so that we could push Emil on the inside. We could really use another presence on the left half space, but I think Iwobi's been excellent for them. Um, and I think Gordon also he's been okay. I think there's been a lot of hype with him and within his fan base, and rightly so. He's a local boy, so they're going to kind of hype up a little bit. But I think the big players for me to really look out for is Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. You're basically looking at that back line, and if we've got Gabriel and White back, which by the way, just a quick injury update for everybody if you don't know, I believe that Gabriel, White, ESR, Valerian Balogun, are all back fit. And Thomas Partey, by the way, back in training at least. I don't know about Tomiyasu. I don't think we've got an update on that. I know he went off injured at Newcastle, but he may not be in. But it looks like Ben White, Gabriel will be back. Emil Smith-Rowe seems to be back, and Thomas has an outside chance if he does make an appearance. And of course, I was telling you off screen, guys, this is a big time to celebrate. As much as I love Laka, it's the last game for him coming up
He
tomorrow. So
deserves
maybe
a
he
send
gets
off.
a maybe he gets a send off,
No,
but
no, no.
54
I hope
goals
he
in
does.
5 seasons, as Chris would say. I don't know, but what do you make of the Everton Dangerman? What are you expecting from the game? And who do you think is the right area to attack?
The Everton Dangerman, Richarlison and DCL are really the main men. Obviously, Iwobi has been very good since since the United game. He's been very good in the sometimes left centre mid, sometimes right centre mid. He's helped obviously Lampard because Lampard's needed someone to change places because obviously they've got red cards at times, injuries, and all this stuff. And Iwobi's a very versatile player who's played left wing back, right wing back, centre mid. So having that
Even
tool is
right center mid, he's played as an 8 for them too. He's
yeah,
kind of played
it's
all over the
been
park.
it's been very beneficial to him. Obviously, Lampard's been probably heavily underrated for what he's done for this Everton team. They were done and dusted.
Do you think so, though? So, do you think he's underrated in terms of his tactics, or has it been a player issue? Because I felt that he hasn't set them up great, and they've been dug out from an amazing Richarlison. Richarlison's been a man possessed in the last couple months, almost single-handedly at times, breaking them free. And Dominic Calvert-Lewin in the last 2 weeks, at least, has really stepped up and been an outlet for them. But do you think that his tactics have been the main reason for keeping them up, or do you think it's a player
I think
quality
they've
kind of
helped.
trump?
Obviously, I think they've helped, but with the same way with the player thing, it goes both ways. Obviously, you can have Richarlison that intensity for pretty much 100 minutes of a game will get you goals, but on the other side, Michael Keane and and Yerry Mina will give goals the other way, and Pickford. He's not been saving well at all, so it goes both ways for him. Like obviously, you can't really do much with a defense where you have Mikalenko, who's more of a centre back, anyways. Yarimina, Michael Keane, who have both been rubbish, and what's his name? Who's got Pickford, who just and then whenever he takes the goal kicks, he just wants to kick it as far as possible rather than to a pinpoint man. So there's been issues for them, like defensively, and then offensively, like you're going to be a set piece threat naturally, just from Calvert-Lewin alone, let alone everybody else on your team. And Michael Keane, Yeremina, they're big set piece threat. Obviously that's how they won their last game versus Palace. Palace were poor, and then they sat off. And when you let a team with that much intensity and you sit off, and they need goals like that, and the stadium's pumping, obviously like it's big for them that they won. Hopefully they're not up for the game before recently, Calvert-Lewin was playing poor. I felt like he was in NBA you call it tanking, trying to get relegated, but yeah, he didn't. I thought he was tanking, trying to get relegated, but that didn't happen. So do you think he still comes? Or no, actually, I don't. I think we'll talk about that later. Forget about that.
Yeah, we'll do transfers. Don't worry, we'll do a transfer pod. I mean, we see all the questions. I know you guys really want to do it, and when you're looking at it, do I think the ball striking is enough in that department? No. That's why the left wing that I would really rather focus on is focused on that ball striking. I think if you recruit a Dominic Calvert-Lewin, you need a more playmaking inside forward with a lot more ball striking. So you're looking at your Suleiman as your Serge Gnabry if you can splurge and he can do a Pogba, things like that. But yeah, don't worry. I don't think we're going to go too hard into the department of transfers quite yet. But we will soon. Don't worry. Don't worry. And no, Curran definitely hasn't quit. He's had a little bit of a break, and that's okay. And he'll come back strong. And don't worry, we'll be back for transfer pods and breaking down new stuff for you. So don't worry. But yeah, like I think the big thing was Goodson Park has been huge, right?
Yeah,
From just an atmosphere perspective and what they were able to do with Palace. I don't think you ride that wave if you were away from home, for example.
they definitely lose that, and Palace don't sit off if they're 2-0. 2-0. Wait. I say this before every game. Hopefully, a team isn't up for hopefully we play the next 38 games next season and no team is up for the game of the Emirates.
Hopefully, it's an easy time. I mean, why
Yeah,
not?
hopefully. Uh, Everton have scored in everyone apart from one of their last like 7 games or something.
Yeah.
They're scoring every single game, putting up. They're averaging 11 shots every game the past 5 games. So they've been a very intense team, and since the relegation threat has become bigger, they've been very intense, which is annoying for Everton fans because throughout the season, where was this? Because
Yeah.
they just turn up at the end of the season and now they're intense, and DCL and Richarlison are scoring every single game. So where did this come from is what the question Everton
Well,
fans.
Dominic Calvert-Lewin hasn't been fit. I've been saying for
Yeah,
it for so long, and people are saying, "Is this his level?" I'm like, "Well, no. Like he's always been this kind of guy. He's a 1 and 2 forward when he's fit and firing. When he's fit and he's able to play his football, he's a 1 and 2 forward. When somebody is able to kind of, because you know what he does, that his ability to pin back Mark Wahe. By the way, Chris, you were mentioning how he's potentially up for Young Player of the Season. That was a
yeah,
phenomenal
that was the
performance.
first time I saw him lose as many aerial duels. Obviously, there were more Anderson because DCL won 16 aerial duels,
Mate,
9 versus
immense.
Anderson.
I've never seen somebody win so many aerial duels, but it wasn't even just aerial duels. He was dominating Mark Wahe, who, by the way, does an excellent job following strikers in the midfield and shutting
He's
them
a dual
down.
specialist. He
He's a
is.
dual. He's
1v1
one of
dual
the. He's one of the best 1v1 dual specialists in the league. And for
specialist.
me, that's what Dominic Calvert-Lewin gives you. He gives you an opportunity to go long. He gives you an opportunity to come deep. And he just couldn't live with him and the space he created. So even if Dominic Calvert-Lewin would hold it up, Mark Guehi was pulled out of the back line, and they no longer had anybody to defend the back post. Anderson isn't quite quick across the back. So for them, that was kind of really the struggle. And I think for us, though, turning it back to Arsenal, that for me is going to be the issue. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, you're going to have to watch him coming into midfield being an outlet. Gabriel's going to have a good game. I think he's back. He's been back training, and I think that battle between him and Dominic Calvert-Lewin is going to be really interesting. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin would naturally want to go to Ben White, because I think that's a 1v1 battle. I believe that he can win a lot more over Gabriel, who's quite dominant in duels himself and aerially. So I think we need to focus on the right side of our defense. I see Dominic Calvert-Lewin doing that, and also Richarlison loading up on that side, right? And I think trying to find the space in behind that area. So I think when you look at it, Richarlison plays typically, kind of off the left-hand side. So we would ideally look at our right side of defense as needing to be a little bit more solid. So that's kind of the danger area for me. Richarlison deep, knockdown, almost a pseudo Spurs kind of game, and except they're even worse compact behind the ball and in the mid block. So, but for me, it's a similar kind of pattern. You isolate Dominic Calvert-Lewin, you stop that out ball, you basically stop the runners off it. So, a big thing is really going to be focused on that. And I think for us, I would just like to see a return to some technical security, mate, and some control of the game. The last couple games, I'd say last 10 games, haven't been great from a midfield control perspective, and I want us to be a lot better on the ball. I don't need us to score too many. I think when we do those things, we control games. We've shown it over the last 38 games from December to March. When we do those things, we can control the narrative of games. And I think with the Emirates cloud, I think they're going to really be up for it, mate. Like I think this is a game where we might see everybody frustratingly return to form. I can actually see it. And unlike Newcastle, I can see us zipping the ball with some quite quick pace, actually. And I think Everton aren't the greatest away from home. Also, even in this run, when we are looking why what did it take them so long, a big reason for the resurgence was Goodson Park, and I think their form at Goodson Park was excellent. So definitely have some danger men, mainly Richarlison, Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But another player that I really do like in their kind of midfield is Iwobi, of course. And I think if Iwobi is also on form, we should watch that quick switch. They kind of use Iwobi right now in the right wing back role, and so we should look for that quick switch out to kind of Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who also himself has a great long pass. So the amount of times that I've seen him release Richarlison from deep has been excellent. So I think this is kind of what we should be looking to avoid kind of in the game. And I think if we put ourselves on the ball, we'll have a good chance at really doing well in the last home game of the season. Then we put ourselves in a position. People keep asking, does Pookie do anything? I don't know. Anything can happen in football. Do I think it's likely? No. Do I think that the last, the 19th or probably one of the worst teams in the Premier League right now do something for us? Is it likely? No, it's not unlikely. But, look, they're at home. They're going to want to give their fans a good send off. And I don't think it's going to be as straightforward. I actually think there's going to be one shock tomorrow, and we have
Hopefully, it's the
relegation,
one we want.
title. Hopefully, it's the one we want, but there's going to be a title, top 4, and relegation battle that's going on, and I
And
believe
Europe, and to be fair, so it's cut you off, but West Ham are still fighting for Europa League. West Ham could still get Europa League, and they've confirmed Ronaldo is not playing.
Yeah. Can you imagine? The West Ham end up doing that. But yeah, no, mate. Like I think there's a lot coming. But look, final score predictions, and then we'll kind of look ahead at kind of the end of season review, and we'll give some promos for some vids that are coming up. But last minute predictions and last minute thoughts for Everton.
Hopefully, it's not a big transition game, and we allow them to feast in transitions like Crystal Palace did after going 2-0 up. Hopefully, we can put our foot on the ball and dictate tempo, and just show why everyone is so disappointed in not getting top 4. And for the first time, we had something to fight for till the final day, pretty much. And hopefully, these players show why they deserve the praise. I think it's going to be from the start of the season, I predicted it to be a 4-0. Like the first day of the season, I was like, we're going to get top 4. We're going to beat Everton 4-0 on the final day. But I do agree it's going to be 2-1 Arsenal. I didn't want to believe their score, but I just think we've been so clumsy defensively that they're going to get a goal. So, yeah, I think it's going to be 2-1 Arsenal. What do you think?
Interesting. Well, look, Tapera knows me well. I can't not go with my favorite score line of the season. I'm going to go 3-1. I think that unfortunately Everton are going to be on the not unfortunately, but fortunately for us, I think they're going to be on the beach. I think they party too hard. I think there's not really much to play for, and in away days, and us at home after kind of the disappointment of that Newcastle performance, I think Mikel's going to rip into them in terms of getting a good performance. And look, if we even put 10% more of what we did against Newcastle, it's a different team, and I really think that we're going to be popping it around, and I think it's going to be kind of one of those days, frustratingly, where it was going to be, well, where was this? Against Newcastle kind of performance. And I really see a 3-1 victory for us to end the season. But yeah, I think after, when we look at it, I think Curran went 1-0 with Everton. I think he's still feeling a little bit down from the Newcastle thing. But after we look at that, we'll have a look at the prediction table. We'll have a look at kind of what we thought would happen at the end of the season. Another couple videos for you guys to come up. We're going to do some tactical videos about targets, what we need in the midfield, what we need in the defense, and what we need in attack. So we talked a lot about those efficiency in the final third, but you get your names that everybody is so much after. Everyone keeps asking me, what about this player? What about this player? We will do that. We'll do a little bit of breakdowns for them. And we have a lot of content coming up, so we're not really going anywhere. So if anybody thought that, we're going to be very depressed about it, we're not. We're just getting started. Just like
and
this.
We didn't finish our top 10s.
Yes, we haven't. Those top 10s that you love, they're coming back.
We have to do top 10 for current Premier League players.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. So, look, guys, thank you so much for sticking with us. I hope this was a little bit of a good therapy session, but don't worry, we'll be back. I think tomorrow's going to be a big day for the Premier League. Guys, let us know in the comments who you think. Do you agree? Is there going to be a surprise tomorrow? I mean, you've got relegation, Europe. I do. I think one of relegation top 4. I honestly think, I think the title. I don't know. For some reason.
We don't need that.
For some reason, I think it's the title. I think relegation is kind of set. I really don't think that Spurs.
Burnley and Leeds on 35 points.
Yeah, and I think relegation's basically tied up at this point. But I don't know about top 4. It would really be asking a lot. The only slight glimmer of hope is that it is at
our situation is the exact same as Liverpool's.
It is totally.
You need the other team who are massive favourites and probably the same. It's probably the same level of being a favourite. Man, Tottenham, Norwich, and Man City's playing Aston Villa, so it's even Tottenham are more likely to win tomorrow than Man City.
I just have a feeling, mate, that there's narrative, and the biggest narrative for me is, look, I think while they're against inferior options, it's like Man City versus the old Liverpool legend. You just can't. You can't not write it better.
I predicted for a long time Liverpool win the Champions League, but I don't need a what's it called?
A double?
A quadruple, not a double.
I think it'll be quadruple.
I don't need that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I don't need it too, but I just have a feeling. I don't know. There's gonna be a shock tomorrow. And that's all I know. I don't think that they made it come down to the last game of the season for no reason. There's
Oh,
gonna
you think the
be
Prem is gonna force it, or
yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
no,
agree. I agree there, but I hope they force it for us.
for us, eh? Yeah, yeah, it'll be
On
good for the
Amazon Prime.
Amazon. Yeah, can you imagine after all what happened? Can you imagine that 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 we end up getting top four? What would happen to the fan base and everything? Can you imagine that?
Then
Um,
everything will change. But
No, no, I'm not saying that they
do
do a
you think
quadruple
Leeds?
personally,
Do
but,
you think Leeds get relegated then?
I do. I think it's Leeds. I don't think it's
You
Burnley.
think they lose to Brentford?
I do. Because Brentford don't like Leeds, and I believe it's at Brentford, is it not?
Yeah, it's at Brentford, and then Burnley playing Newcastle at Burnley.
Exactly. And so for me, I think Newcastle do the business against Burnley. And I think that Leeds, which is unfortunate because I think Jesse Marsh has made them better, for sure. Like they've definitely played better since he's come in.
I think
Um,
considering it's the last day, we might as well just look at every game.
Yeah, no, I think you know what? Maybe we'll do that. We'll do a big review. We'll look at all the games. I think everyone's gonna have a couple screens on in the background. So you guys let us know what you think. Yeah, James, I don't know. I just have a feeling. I
No,
don't know
no, we
why.
don't need that. I'm
I
sorry, we
don't
don't.
know. I don't know
Liverpool
why.
fans are so hard to deal with now already, as it is.
I
Imagine
prefer
them
Man
winning.
City. I picked Man City, but mate, I can't believe that they would get all of this stuff to the end of the season and there wouldn't be some kind of script writing. And for me, that Gerard is the one to do it. That's up there with peak script writing.
Up
It'll be a
there. It
moment.
is. It is. It literally is.
Yeah,
Gerard Gerard slips. Gerard slips against Liverpool because he scored a goal in the
yeah,
first minute versus Liverpool to make it 1-0. He slipped first Liverpool to let them win 2-1.
yeah.
And then he's gonna Man City, Pep, you can't allow this nonsense.
And then make Pep slip. Can you imagine the narratives, the narratives, the narratives? But look, you guys, let us know what you think. I think we're gonna probably tie it off there. Chris, you want to shout out your socials?
Yeah, it's there. CK Football on Twitter, BoP Footy on Twitter, and Ball Over Passion on Instagram and TikTok. Yeah.
There we go. And you can find me at GeorgeV_AFC. Thank you so much, lads, for sticking with us. Look, I know it's been a tough one, but yeah, I think I'd be excited for tomorrow. Look, I'm excited. I love the last game of the season. I don't know about you, but it's just one of those times where I have 2 or 3 screens going. I've got 4 or 5 coffees on the pot running, and everyone's just loving the last day. We're just going to go
I'm
back
watching
and
4
forth.
screens at the same time,
Absolutely.
as always.
If you don't get a headache from too much blue light exposure, you're not doing it right. That's all I'm going to say. So, guys, thank you so much for sticking with us. We're going to catch you guys back for that Everton review, sorry, and then we're going to be doing an end of the season kind of review. Our awards, who we thought was our young player of the season, our most improved, all of those fun stuff. We'll definitely be breaking it down for you, and of course, the transfers. The transfers, we will let you guys, kind of out. Everyone keeps asking me about players, who we need, what we need to do. We will definitely have those. We'll have those debates, and we'll have some BOP spaces about transfers since you guys really like those. So
And the
keep in
season
touch.
review will bring some of you guys on.
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys make sure that you guys are alive for that, and how you can do that is make sure you click the bell for notifications. Know that when we do upload, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. If you do like the content and you want to join, you can click the join button, which will give you a little bit of membership content as well. We got some stuff coming, so keep with us, guys. Thank you so much for all your support, and we will catch you hopefully when I line up the prediction table and we get a 3-1 Arsenal victory tomorrow. That's what we're manifesting. So thank you so much, and we'll catch you guys on the review. Peace now.